So Vance spoke at the security conference in Munich, and he was saying, and rightfully so, that the threat to freedom in the West does not come from Russia or China. It comes from the governments in the West. In this case, he was talking about European governments. Now, we all know the story about Tommy Robinson, where he was speaking out about rape gangs in the UK and was thrown into a prison cell as a result. What was his crime exactly? Good question. There are many other examples in Germany, people getting arrested because they're criticizing the government or they're criticizing the policy, like the government policy specifically with regard to migrants. There are people that criticize the war in Russia, and in Germany, you're not supposed to do that either. So the threat to freedom in Europe is the European bureaucrats. It's the philosophy of nihilism. It's Immanuel Kant's handiwork. It's this idea that there is no logic and reasoning, that everything is equated, that there is equality of result and not of opportunity. It's this idea that they live in this post-industrial, post-capitalistic, quote-unquote world that as if the people don't deserve the opportunity to have a degree of ingenuity, to invent something, to start their own businesses. They are so overregulated in Europe, so overtaxed in Europe, just so they could pay for the migrants, so they could pay for bailouts of other countries in Europe. Europe is absolutely insane. From a policy perspective. Of course it is, because the bureaucrats, the elite, want it to be that way because they want to replace the population. They want a population that's more docile, more superstitious, easier to control. Now, Russia's got a lot of problems too. Russia and China certainly have a lot of problems, but they don't have the same kind of problems as Europe does. Arguably, Western Europe is not any more freer than Russia is. In Russia, you don't have freedom of the press, and you don't have it in Western Europe either, by the way. So a lot of times people conflate wealth with freedom. And yes, there is a causal relationship. When a country is more freer, over time they become wealthier because you get the government out of the way. You get entrepreneurs, people that can build wealth. Whereas when you, for example, a communist country, nobody's allowed to do anything. I mean, everything is government controlled. Not just communism, fascism is like this, Nazism was like this, socialism is like this, just not as harsh. But the big picture is that, or I should say, the principle is that you get government out of the way. Okay, is that government does not have a business telling people how to live. Russia has the problem. They have big government. It's an oligarchy. It's special interests, people doing favors for each other. You have an elite class and you have a working underclass, and the same is true for Europe. The only difference is in Western Europe is that you've had a period where you had relative free markets, and you also had the geographic placement where they have better weather, better agriculture, better access to trade. And so, yes, there is more wealth in Western Europe, but for all purposes, it's actually no more freer, certainly not in principle, compared to Russia. And so, yeah, Vance is absolutely correct. The biggest threat to freedom in Europe are the European bureaucrats.